Okay, welcome once again. I want to be sure, can we all hear me before I start?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. And you can see my screen, the Grow Your Own Grocery Shop, right?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so welcome once again. My name is Miebaka Itotaria and founder of Miana Naturals. And this evening, I'll be sharing with us on Grow Your Own Grocery Shop. And I know some persons may be wondering, what does this really mean? To grow your own grocery shop simply means to grow as much food as you can in your space. It could be your home space, somewhere around the house, but you're growing as much food as you can. And I know the truth is we may not be able to grow everything we consume at home. But then, what if we try growing 10% of what we consume at home, or 5% of what we consume at home, or 20% of what we consume at home? That will go a long way. So that's the essence, one of the reasons why I came up with this training, to help as many persons as possible know what to do, and also to help guide people to grow food at home. Most of us will attest to the fact that growing up, either you saw your parents or your grandparents growing things around the house. For some persons, like my sisters will always tell me, because I'm the last child at home, so there was a time before I was born, there was a time my mom had, where they were staying, they had space to grow some things. So there were times there was no money at home to buy anything. My mom back then, she used to sell dried fish in the market. So sometimes she would bring the fish from the market, and then they would go into the little garden. They had them. They had pepper. They had ugu. They had some vegetables. And most times they will go, they pick here, pick there, and before you know it, a meal is set. So looking at our current day and age, that culture is no longer in practice. And we also have cases of, pesticides, chemicals that people use to grow food. I remember a client of mine, that was last year. I set up a home garden and I garden maintenance, and she was sharing an ordeal with me. Someone came and saw ugu that was growing, because I wasn't the person that planted it. They planted the ugu, and where they grew it, it was struggling. I even told her, I said, where this thing is going to struggle. But she said, let them just still leave it there and see. So this particular lady came and saw the ugu like that, and she was telling my client, oh, there's something I can give you. All you have to do is just put it on this plant and it will be very green and all that. So she was like, she's going to ask me first before agreeing. But while they were still discussing, I had not come that day. The lady brought some of the leaves from her own farm for her and told her, hey, look at this. This is my own ugu from the farm. See how green it is. I use that thing I'm telling you about to grow it and all. So she gave some of the leaves to my clients. She said that evening they prepared it, because my client loves sauteed veggies a lot. So they just cooked it in a, when you cook vegetables and it's not properly cooked, that's kind of state. And she said she ate it with, I think, rice that night and then went to bed. She said from that night till morning, there were two of them that ate that thing, herself and her girl. They started stooling from that night till morning. That was when she told herself that it's possible this lady said she's putting on these plants is a chemical. So when I came and she was telling me about it, I just told her, I said, that thing is a chemical. And the truth is, I'm going to be very blunt with you. 80 to 90% of what we buy in the open market as vegetables, you really don't know what you really don't want to know how they grew them, because you may not want to buy. Some farmers are after their pockets. Let's put this in sharp, let it grow, and then we sell. They are not really considering the health of the end consumers. And that's why I advocate for growing, especially vegetables and those things you don't you eat in raw forms or in semi-raw forms. If it's something like beans or rice, you say, okay, Papa will boil it, pour out the first water, and then cook it again. But with your vegetables, that's not the case. Some of us, we use our vegetables raw in juices. So imagine using a vegetable or a herb that has chemicals on it. You may think, they say we should live healthy, we should eat healthy, I'm taking veggies. But then that vegetable is going to do another thing else in your body. Please, I don't know if I'm communicating. I'll be asking for our feedback, because let me not feel like I'm just talking.
No, you're actually communicating.
Okay. All right. So growing food at home is now a necessity. It's no longer something we say for people in the village. So like I said, organic home gardening is gradually becoming a necessity for households. Yes, I'll say it again, we may not be able to grow everything we consume at home. But what if we try with 10%? Or what if we try with the basic vegetables we use at home? Organic gardening is a necessity. Now, what are some of the benefits of growing food at home, or the benefits of practicing organic gardening in your home space? It gives you access to fresh, healthy produce. You see this number one, I'm a living witness. It gives you access. Sometimes you go to the markets, you want to buy vegetable. By the time you are going to buy some vegetables, because some, before they will leave, I remember there was a time all the cabbage, all the lettuce, and all that we consume. I'm in Port Harcourt. I don't know your location, but I know most persons that signed up for this class are in Port Harcourt. But wherever you're located, I'm sure you may know that some of the vegetables consumed in your environment, most of them come from the north. So let's take this analogy, for instance. The farmer harvests those vegetables today. They pack them in their bags or in the baskets, take it to the park, and then they start loading it in their vehicles. Now that vehicle will travel, let's say it's coming from Kano. It will travel, maybe it will take a day or two to get to the market. Sometimes you may get to the market late at night, and then by the next morning, the people that want to sell, they will come and buy and then take to sell. So from when this thing is harvested to when it reaches the end consumer, you will notice it's just like depreciation is setting. Most times you buy some vegetables, you go to the market to buy, it's as if the thing is so weak, like there's no life in it. But if you have a garden and you want to use a produce, for me, most times I wake up in the morning, I say this morning I want to take green juice. I just go to the garden as it's fresh, pluck it, use it for my juice. So the vegetable or herb or whatever I'm harvesting is in its fresh state. The law of depreciation has not set in. It is still fresh. The nutrients, everything is still intact, and I'm using it that way. That's one advantage of having a home garden. It gives you that access to fresh, healthy produce, and it helps you to save costs. So imagine if you're someone who does juicing. Let's say you say, okay, I want to this. They say we should be doing healthy living. I want to start living healthy. You go out and you say, okay, I'll be buying vegetables every week. And you go to, say, Fruit Garden. Here in Port Harcourt, one major market where they sell most of those things is called Fruit Garden. Let's say you go to Fruit Garden. You buy a bunch of kale. When I went, there was a time I went there, when I saw the bunch of kale, they were selling for 1,500. I said, my God. One tiny little thing like that. So just imagine I buy that one, 1.5, And then I'll buy other things, buy carrots, buy the vegetables like that. And then I go and buy my fruits. Let's say at the end of the day, I'm spending 10,000 naira. The truth is 10,000 naira is not like it's very expensive when it comes to your health. But imagine I have a garden where I have that kale. Let's say I buy the kale seedling because I sell seedlings and I sell a seedling for 800 naira. So a customer buys a seedling for 800 naira and goes and transplants. That seedling starts producing for that customer for close to 4 or 5 months, some even 6. I have a client whose kale is approaching a year and she's still harvesting. She says she uses it virtually every week. So imagine that customer and then someone who has to go to the market to buy this vegetable whenever they want to use it. I don't know if you get that aspect of it's helping you save costs. And also, like a post I shared on my Instagram today, I was talking about there was a time, it's not just even that time, there have been several times there was no cash at hand. There was no money in the house. But I had a few things in the freezer. I go out there, I pick this, pick that. Before you know it, a meal is set. So it helps you save costs and it helps the environment because since we're doing organic gardening, we're not using harmful chemicals that destroy the soil or destroy the air or pollute the air. The normal, if you see where they spray some of these conventional chemicals, back then when we were in school, my 200 level, when they were teaching us how to spray and all that, remember our lecturer telling us, you have to cover your face, you have to cover your eyes, you have to cover everywhere, ensure this thing doesn't touch you. And it was when I started doing organic farming, I started remembering some of those things. And I asked myself, if we have to cover ourselves like this, to spray this thing on something a human being is going to eat. As in, just imagine, I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. We have to protect ourselves. Then we're putting this thing on something that someone will consume and put in their bodies. So with organic farming, with organic gardening, you're helping the environment. There's also the part where, I'll talk about it later, where it also helps to recycle waste. So I've said benefits, it gives you access to fresh, healthy vegetables and produce. It helps you save costs. It helps the environment because even the air, when you have plants around, it helps to purify the air around the house. And it is highly therapeutic and helps to reduce mental and emotional stress. There's a research I did last year for a program I'm currently running. And I was working on home gardening as a panacea for household food security. Out of the respondents, about 80 to 90% of the respondents that I used for that research attested to the fact that their home gardens was helping them to reduce mental and emotional stress. Personally, I've experienced it. There are times I'm feeling so down and I just go out there, mere touching these plants. Sometimes you go out there and you see, I remember one of those days I was down emotionally. I was let's say depressed, but I was feeling really down. And I came outside and my eyes just caught the sight of my plantain fruiting. I just screamed like, wow. And that singular thing, it just made me feel happy. It improved my mood. I started smiling. So your home garden, it can do a lot for you. It can help you to reduce stress. And it can help to bond family members, especially if they are involved in the gardening process. If you have children, when you're doing your gardening, involve them. It helps to build that bond. And also it motivates you to eat healthy. I see this particular one. There are times you come out, you see your plants, and the next thing you're thinking, this thing will be nice in a sauce, or this thing will be nice in a juice. Personally, there are times, I've eaten junk, and when I pass by my garden, it's just like those veggies are looking at me like, are you not going to pluck us? Before you know it, I'm thinking of a juice or a salad or something to do with them. So it motivates you to eat healthy. It helps in waste recycling. Currently in my house, there are things that no longer find their way to the dustbin. My peels, fruit peels, eggshells, all that is recycled and is used to feed my soil. So there are a lot more that your home garden can do for you. Please hope I'm communicating. If If I'm too fast, please let me know.
No, you're okay. You're communicating.
Okay. Okay, so on to the next. So what do I need to grow my own grocery shop? Your grocery shop we're talking about here is your home garden. So what do you need to grow your own grocery shop? What do you need to grow your own home garden? The first thing I'll say is it begins with the right mindset. It begins with the right mindset. So I know some persons will say, some persons have said that to me though. I want to start gardening. No, this is your garden. Every time I see it, I want to start gardening too. And I tell them it is not enough to want to garden because someone else is doing it. What is your motive for wanting to start? Because gardening is not, especially organic gardening, it's not a walk in the park. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything for you and make you feel like, oh, this thing is paradise or is Garden of Eden. No, even Garden of Eden, God still told Adam that they will take care of the garden. They still had a part to play. So it's not a walk in the park. And so you really have to make up your mind, because there are days it will feel like this gardening thing safe. Who send me message? So on such days, it is your reason for starting in the first place that keeps you going. For me, I wanted healthier options. And aside from the fact that I studied agricultural economics in school, and right from when I was in university, I had it in mind that I would like to have a garden. What I had in mind was, or what I have in mind is to have a system where without going to the market, even without going to the market, I can confidently or comfortably prepare a meal for the house. That's the kind of picture. So the system I have in mind is an integrated system where I will have plants, raise animals like that in the home space. That's the kind of dream I have for my own home garden. So whenever I even encounter challenges, sometimes you come out, now we're entering rainy season, you see pest issues, snails coming out to eat kale that they did not plant, pests coming out to eat things that they are not the ones that planted. All those things, sometimes you come out, you see your plant that you saw that was looking vibrant, you come out and it's dead. There are challenges like that in gardening, but even when I encounter such challenges, I always remind myself of the fact that, see, this thing you started it because of XYZ reason. And my reason for starting outweighs whatever challenges I have. So it begins with the right mindset. Don't go into gardening because you are seeing Instagram posts, because you are seeing, it's like this thing, the way everybody is doing, let me also follow. No. Sit down, have a good reason for wanting to. And also, if you can, write it somewhere or keep reminding yourself of that reason. So it begins with the right mindset. And then the second thing I would say is start where you are with what you have and gradually improve. So whether it's a balcony space, like the picture I used there, this is someone's balcony. But even in that balcony space there, you're seeing the person doing something there. So whether the space where you have, let me show you a picture of how my space was. Can we all see it?
Yes.
This was how my space was. This space, when it rains, I remember there was a time it rained, as in everything I planted. I just stood there, I was watching. Water, you see this space, like when it rains, the water will be so high, it will cover everything. When I first started, the first things I planted, everything died because then I didn't have the right knowledge. I was just excited about the fact that, I want to start gardening. I just started planting. I didn't really take out time to plan based on what I have. So it was after that first failure, I had to sit down, go back to the drawing board, and then I said, for this, my space is raised beds that will work. So I got blocks, bought soil, and then I started with about 2 beds, and then gradually I started adding like that. Now I have up to, I think I have up to about 8 to 10 beds. Then I'm growing in sacks too, and I have some on ground, and I still have spaces that this year I'm still going to add some more beds too. So start where you are with what you have. Sometimes we keep postponing, and we say, for instance, people have said that to me. Some persons who will reach out to me that, oh, I want to start gardening, no, but where we are staying, we don't have. I remember a lady that reached out to me. So I saw your Instagram post. I want plants, but where we're staying, we don't have space. So when she said that, I said, okay, send me a picture or a video of your space. Let me see how the space looks so I can know how best to advise or what to suggest. Guess what? When she sent me the picture, they had space. But in her own opinion, because the place was interlocked, there was no soil on ground, she felt she didn't have space. So I said, with this space, we can do a lot. So since it's interlocked, there's no soil on ground, we can do buckets, we can do sacks, we can do raised beds that will have a base. So she opted for pots. We use them grow buckets. She asked fee. She ordered for 4 plants for her to start with. So we prepared imported Cuban oregano, kale, parsley, and lettuce, and we sent them to her. She said she was going to start with those ones, and then she will add gradually. So wherever you are, that your balcony that you're saying that is small, in that little balcony, you'll be amazed the little things you can grow there. So I've said the right mindset, start where you are with what you have. The truth is that space where you are, that space you have is enough for you to start growing something. It can be 1 pot, it can be 2 pots, but you can have something growing, no matter how little your space is. And the third thing I would say is build your soil. In organic gardening, in organic farming, the soil, a vibrant soil, is the bedrock of successful organic gardening. In conventional farming, the focus is on the plants. So that is why you see them do things like spraying, like I said about that lady, spraying things that will make the plants look green. I remember there was a time I wanted to grow ugu, and someone told me, you want to use manure and you people and compost people are talking about. Say the ugu will not be green, no. Say there are chemicals you have to spray. When you spray it, by the time you go and come back, the leaf will be so green. And I just laughed. I told her, this part, I'm not going that part. This is where I'm going. And guess what? I used compost. I think for that ugu, it was even poultry manure. I used just poultry manure that I used, and I planted that ugu for close to 6 months. Close to 6 months. I didn't have to put anything again, because when you're using natural things, they are slow release. It's not like those chemical fertilizers that they put. Guys, those ones are like junk food. You know how junk food is. You eat it, you see the person may just be growing fat, but no health. But if you're doing organic and you're using compost, you're using natural things for your plants, you will notice sometimes 4 months have passed, you've not added anything. One of my clients is here in this class, and she will attest to what I'm about to say now. We set up her potted plants in June last year. She had kale, she had oregano, pak choy, and I've forgotten the last one we did. From that June, it was last week, she fed the soil again. And guess what? For the plants that had not completed their cycle, like 2 of the plants, the kale and the oregano, they were still producing. So that's what I'm talking about. When you use natural things, the soil, because there are organisms in the soil. Please, are we following? If what I'm saying you don't understand, please, because I teach children in church, and when I'm teaching, I want you to really get what I'm saying. So please, is it clear?
Yes, it's
Very clear, loud and clear.
Okay. So when you're building your soil, the soil is like a community. A vibrant soil is like a community. So think of a community where you're staying. Or let's use your village, for instance. There are different people interacting. There's someone who is selling. There are people who are buying. There's a whole lot. Everybody in that community is affecting each other one way or the other, both positively and negatively. That's how it is in the soil. But in a situation where you have, let's say, in a place where they say, this place, if you go there, they will snatch your bag, there are a lot of hoodlums there. That's to say you have more of the bad guys there than you have the good guys. So when you're working in that kind of a place, you're very conscious. You go out there, you're scared and all that. That's how it is with the soil. If the bad guys, who are the bad guys? The ones that cause, those organisms that cause disease, that attack our plants, those are the bad guys. So if your soil has more of the bad guys, that's when you see the plant falling sick. Today, you see aphids. The truth is, when you're starting out, pest attacks is normal. But it is when it is now, the pest attack is now out of control. You know that, this one, you have to do something about it. When I first started, because I was building, let me show you a picture of how the soil in one of my garden beds look. Now look at this picture. These two are a year apart. The brown one was less fertile. Look at it a year after, it's becoming darker. When you're building your soil, it's just like you're building a house. It's not an overnight thing. There are practices you will put in place. For me, I've put in up to about 5 different practices to be able to achieve this. And for this class, I'll be sharing one of those practices with us. It's called mulching. M-U-L-C-H-I-N-G. Mulching. And what is mulching? It's just simply putting a layer of material on the soil. That layer of material, it can be dried leaves, it can be nylon bags, it can be, some persons use sawdust, but with sawdust, the thing is, before it breaks down, it will drag the nitrogen that is in your soil. So the nitrogen that your plants are supposed to use, the sawdust will drag it because it's a carbon material and it needs to break down. So it will first of all drag the nutrient that is in the soil. And then when it breaks down, it will still go back. But the time when it is drawing those things from your soil, your plants will suffer. So for me, I use dried leaves. And I try as much as possible to replicate nature in my garden space. So most of us who, if you've been to your village or you've seen a forest, or even if you've not seen a forest, you have a place where there are trees around. And you've seen where these leaves, they fall and fall and fall on the soil. And you don't sweep it, it's just there. If you go and remove those dried leaves over a period of time, if you go and scrape off those dried leaves, you will see that the soil underneath is soft, is dark. You will see some insects. Let me use insects that we can understand. Some organisms on the soil. You may see earthworms, you can see millipedes and all that. All these things are, I call them the soil workers. They are breaking down. Then they are the ones we cannot see with our eyes. There's bacteria, there's fungi. When you see mushroom on your soil, it's an indication that that soil has organic matter. And what that fungi, mushroom is a fungi, what it does is it spreads out. Some of those organisms, they act like extra roots, like fungi. It will spread out to other parts of the soil and it will go and draw nutrients and bring it to the roots of your plants. But when you're using chemical, like this chemical fertilizer and all that, what it does is it kills these good guys. It kills these soil microorganisms. It makes the soil unpalatable for them to be able to stay. So when you put in practices that make these organisms happy, your plants will be happy. So like I said, mulching is one way. So what you can do is, even when I set up for people, I ensure I do that. Even in my garden, I put a layer of material on the soil. I use dried leaves a lot. I will put it on the soil. So as those leaves are breaking down, they are adding to the soil. The soil texture will improve. If it's a soil that is not very fertile, you notice with time, the soil will become darker. When you put all those things that helps those microorganisms, it's just like you're giving them food. Imagine if they give you, the person that is giving you food, won't you be happy to work for the person? So if those things are in place, once the soil is healthy, your plants will be healthy. If your plants are healthy, you that is eating the plants, you'll be healthy also. So I've said the right mindset, start where you are with what you have and gradually improve, and then focus on building a healthy soil. It may take some time, but you will eventually get there. With my garden, I'm noticing lately that the pest attack is gradually reducing. Because imagine someone who is eating healthy. That person will not fall sick or will not easily fall sick compared to someone who is feeding on junk. Okay? On to the next. Grow what you love and readily use at home. You know, there's this excitement. I fell into that trap too. I'm not going to lie to you. When I started, I bought plants. I was excited. I bought seeds. The money I've spent on seeds. Jehovah God. They'll say, hey, it's radish. This is kale. Is this one? I'll buy. And most of the seeds are not cheap. A pack 3,000. It got a point where I was buying seeds from someone that was coming from the UK. There are times when I finish buying, I'll sit down. There was a time I bought seeds close to 100,000. And most times, some of those seeds you buy, it's not everything that will grow. I bought things that they'll just say, I will see a gardener growing it. The next time I'll say, I'll go and buy. There's one radish. When I even planted it, I didn't even know what they use it for. I started asking other gardeners, please, this radish, what do they use it for? Someone say, me, I use it as sweet potato. Another person say, I use it for salad. I ended up not even using it. So money wasted, time wasted. I didn't use it. So when you're starting, especially for those of us who want to start gardening, there's this excitement. You want to grow everything. Please don't fall for that temptation. Don't fall for that temptation. Start with what you love. And what I usually say, start with what you use regularly at home. So if you use ugu, for instance, regularly at home, you can start with that. Start with the basic things. I'm not saying you shouldn't grow these other things. That's not what I'm saying. Grow them. Even this year, there are some things I said I'm going to add and then learn how to use them. But I have the ones that I'm using regularly at home growing. So I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Start with the ones you use regularly at home. It will motivate you. Imagine growing something you don't even know how to use. You may even end up saying, this gardening thing, I'm not doing it again. I'll go and plant something I'm not using. So start with the things you use at home. If it's herbs, if it's vegetables, local vegetables that you know how to use or you use often at home, you can start with that, then gradually introduce the other newer ones. Okay. Now we go on to different categories of plants you can add to your garden. Number one is vegetables. And under this category, we have ugu, that's our fluted pumpkin. We have spinach, we have kale, we have lettuce. Now, the way you grow each of these categories differs. We have vegetables, we have herbs, we have tubers, we have tree crops, and fruiting plants, and flowers. the way you grow each of them differs. So I'll take vegetables and fruiting plants, for example. So let's start with our vegetables. Most of our leafy green vegetables, they don't require so much. They require high nitrogen. Nitrogen helps with the leaf, making the plants more like adding vegetative growth. That's like bringing out more leaves and all that. So if you're growing something like your basic vegetables, you can use materials that are high in nitrogen. For instance, our poultry dropping is high in nitrogen, even though it contains other nutrients, but it contains them in, there are different quantities of each of these nutrients contained in it, but it has more of nitrogen. So with your vegetables, you use more nitrogen-rich materials for them. But now, and we have some vegetables that are fruits, for instance, like cucumber. So most fruiting plants, the way you will feed them differs. Take, for example, you have a pregnant woman. You can't be feeding a pregnant woman. You can't tell a pregnant woman to be eating rice every day. She's carrying a baby. So she has to eat healthy. The baby also has to gain nourishment from her. So if she's not nourished, the baby will not be nourished. So with fruiting plants, it's just like, see them as pregnant women. So there's the part where it gets to a point when they are flowering, there's you have to focus on adding materials that are rich in potassium, that are rich in phosphorus. So the nutrients requirements of each of these different categories varies from time to time. If you're growing something like tuber crops, because they are root crops, like your sweet potatoes, yam, they need things rich in phosphorus because phosphorus help with root development. Please, hope I'm not talking above our heads, please.
No, you're okay.
Okay, thank you. So each of these categories, they require different nutrients. But if you're starting with your basic vegetables, your normal compost, your normal poultry dropping can do that. But if you're going to grow fruiting plants, you would have to up your game. I don't know how many of us have planted, for people who have planted something like pepper, you would have experienced what I'm about to say. It may get to a point where the pepper is flowering, but it will flower and then the flowers drop. How many of us have experienced that?
Very true.
If you've
Very
grown,
true.
it will get to a point. Flower is coming out, but you're not seeing fruit. The next thing, the flowers are dropping. That's called flower abortion, and it's a deficiency that is causing that. And sometimes some people make the mistake of your plant is flowering, you're not gonna add more poultry dropping. Meanwhile, poultry dropping is bringing out more leaves for you. So you see the plant just has leaves everywhere, and you're not seeing fruits. So each of these categories we've talked about, they have different nutritional needs that come in at different phases of their lives. So for this class, I've shared on that of the vegetables. If you're growing vegetables, you focus on nitrogen-rich materials, even though you need the other ones, though they come in smaller quantities, in things like poultry droppings, in rabbit droppings, in what's it called now? Cow dung and the rest. And let me also say this. It wasn't supposed to be part of our class, but I'll say it. If you're growing crops with manure, please don't go and use fresh manure. It will kill your plants. Sorry, excuse me, please. Let me take some water. If you use fresh droppings, you kill your plants. So if you're using something like poultry droppings, please allow it to decompose. Let it stay for like 2-3 months. Let it break down properly before you put it on your soil. And then, please, in organic farming, we don't use droppings from dogs, from cats. No. Personally, as a rule, I advise use droppings from animals that eat plant materials. So, for instance, rabbit dropping, some persons use goat droppings too, cow dung. But I have an issue with cow dung. If it's not properly decomposed, it can introduce weed seeds to your bed, because you know the way cows eat, as they are eating, they have 4 stomach. So most times as they're eating, what they're eating doesn't really digest. It goes to one part of the stomach, it mixes, before it will even get to the true stomach that it will break down and all that. Most times they have passed out feces, and the feces will now contain weed seeds. So if that cow dropping is not properly broken down, when you put it on your soil, it will introduce those weed seeds. They will not start growing on your bed. So if you're going to use any dropping, ensure it has properly broken down. I think the only dropping that you may not necessarily have to compose for a long time before you use is rabbit dropping. It's safe. But just that in organic practice, they will advise that if you're using manure to grow something that you know you will eat within a month or 2 or 3, ensure the manure you're using has decomposed for like 3-4 months. So you don't say, okay, you are harvesting something and then maybe microorganisms or disease and pathogens from the manure is now on your vegetable. So I hope with my few points, I've been able to show you how you can grow your own grocery shop. Have I done that? Please, if I've not done that, let me know.
You have done
Honestly, you
well.
have done a really good job. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have, like I said, this is a pre-training class. And we have the main training starts from the 10th to 15th of April. I just decided this wasn't even part of my initial plan, honestly, but I just decided to do this for as many who will benefit. And I wanted a situation where whether you sign up for the paid class or not, you should be able to go with something valuable. Even though I would love for you to be part of this training, because I'll be sharing a lot. In this training, I'll teach you how you can set up a garden that fits your unique space, because it's not every garden idea that can fit your space. So I'll work with you on your space and then show you how you can set up a garden that fits your unique space. I'll teach you how to build a fertile, thriving soil. Like I said, there are about 5 different practices I've put in place that I've used, that I've tried, and I'm seeing results. So I'll show you how you can build a fertile, thriving soil. And I'll teach you how to create plant food and other organic farming inputs. So currently, there are plant foods I tried that I'm seeing results with. So I'll teach you how to do that. And then also how to make your own organic farming inputs. So it's not every time you want to use certain things, you have to go and buy. Because I want you to have a level of self-sufficiency with your home gardening. I don't want a situation where you have a garden and you always have to rely on, oh, you have to buy this from here, you have to buy this from there. Even though you buy, I'm not saying you're not going to buy things, but even if you have to buy, let's try to see how we can minimize that and use what we have around us. There are plant foods you can make with the weeds around, with your eggshells, a whole lot. So I'm going to be showing you all that. And I'll teach you how to raise exotic and local vegetables, herbs, and tubers. I'll teach you how to grow cucumbers, how to grow lettuce, how to grow kale, spinach, sweet potatoes, and a whole lot. And because the training will be for 5 days, after the 5 days, we will have a 1-month support group. So for 1 month, I'll work with you to see how to have your garden up and running. So I'll be doing all this for us. And the registration fee is 15,000, but for early registration, it's 10,000 naira and it's valid till the 23rd of March. But for this class, I said for everyone who would participate in this class, I'm giving a discount from the 10,000 naira. I'll be dropping the code. If you're registering between today and tomorrow, you'll be getting the training for 8,500 naira. So that is that for our class. I would really love to work with us, but even if you're not signing up for the class, please go and start your home garden with the information you've gotten. So I don't know if you have questions. Questions, I'm open to questions right now. Let me see how I can. Hello? Please, if you have questions, let me hear you.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the training. So I would like to ask, so if I get to pay for this training and all that, are you going to sell the seeds to us? Is there a place where we can get seeds to plant to start our own?
Okay, the seeds, personally I sell seedlings, I sell plants, but I have vendors. If you want to buy seeds, I have about 2 vendors that I've spoken with. One of them is opting to give discounts to participants. So I told him I will get back to him when I'm done with this class. So if you want to buy seeds, yes, I can link you up with vendors. If you want seedlings, I also sell seedlings, and I'll be giving out seedlings to participants at a discounted price. So if it's seeds, if it's inputs you want, I can link you up when we're in the course of the training. I don't know if I answered your question, ma'am.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay. Please, any other question from what I thought? Please ask me question. No, don't keep a question in your mind. I'm here for you.
I personally don't have any question. I'm okay with what you said. I'm just quoted.
Okay. Thank you.
I would also like to ask, is this going to be the only training for the year?
No. This is my first training for the year. So I'll still have subsequent ones that will come up later. But this is the basics. Like it says, it's mastering the basics of organic home gardening. There are other advanced trainings, but this is a basic one to get anyone who wants to start gardening, to give them a good start. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much for joining.
Okay.
Please. Okay, please.
Thank you for an insightful session. My question is, when you were talking about enriching the soil, things that we can actually add to improve the the nutrients in the soil, you mentioned nylon.
Okay, no.
So I was wondering how.
Okay, sorry. With
I was
nylon,
how it was
I said
decompose and all.
Okay, sorry. I think I was supposed to clarify that. So what I said is mulching is putting a layer of material on the soil. Now, some persons use nylon. Now, what mulching does is it does a lot of things. It helps to suppress weeds. So some persons use that nylon to help with that weed suppression, because when you cover with the nylon, the weeds can't see sunlight to grow. So some persons use nylon bags, and then that nylon also helps with moisture conservation. But if you're doing organic, that won't work for you because the nylon bag won't break down and add to the soil. So I forgot to mention, I use natural materials, things that can break down and add to the soil. So with nylon bag, that cannot be done. There are 2 types of mulching materials. We have the natural or organic and inorganic. The inorganic, that's where the nylon bag falls in. So in terms of building or adding to the soil, our nylon bag can't do that. It's very limited. So personally, I advise natural materials to be used as mulching materials. Thank you for pointing that out.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there any other question? Any other question? Okay, in the absence. Okay, I'm listening, ma'am.
Okay, my question goes this way. Regardless of when, because I don't know, because it's organic, it doesn't necessarily have to go by seasons. The normal season we know we're taught during agriculture about planting and
planting. Okay.
Yeah. Does they have to go through such seasons?
Okay. Personally, I always say I don't do seasons in my garden. Why people do seasonal farming is most times it's because of rain. That's why you notice now that the rains have started, there'll be a lot of planting going on because you won't have to worry about, I have to go and water and all that. So people do a lot of seasonal planting because of that watering. For me, I don't do seasonal. I was telling yesterday, my neighbor was asking me, I said, if something enters my head now to plant, I get up and go and plant. I don't do seasonal anything. As long as you can irrigate your farm, you can water your garden, you're good to go. Though with the dry season, you may now have you may have to up your game. I'll give a practical example. So in the farm, because there's a farm I manage, during the dry season, we planted our corn, and we noticed a lot of pest infestation that dry season. But this rainy season, the corn, the few seeds that the attendant at the farm planted, they are doing well. So the truth is there are some pests that are very active during the dry season. So if you're growing, some you may have to do like cover with a net, up your watering aim and all that. But other than that, I don't do season. Personally, I plant whatever I want to plant whenever I want to plant it. So I don't know if I answered your question, ma'am.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I would love feedback on the class. If you can put it in writing and just drop it on the group, I will really appreciate that. So thank you so much for joining me. Initially, when I started, I told myself, if it's one person that comes in, I'll teach that person like it's 1,000 people. So thank you for joining. I had a nice time sharing with us. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. I'll be dropping the links for as many who would want to join in the training. Thank you and have a great evening. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.